questions. Okay. A good act of faith creates a lot of questions that we might have. And one of the things is that the challenge of a preacher, when you spend so much time with this stuff, so much time reading and studying and reflecting and figuring things out, because of the time you spend, I guess, over time, you start to really recognize the distance between society and the peace. And that each one of us, all of us, are products of society. Each one of us wants to be happy and whole. Each one of us has been profoundly influenced by a variety of different voices, things and ideas that have shaped who we are. But I guess the challenge is when you're focusing, as a preacher should be focusing on the peace, you start to see the incredible distance that we can be in different places and have different thoughts and attitudes and ideas and actions that are contrary to what Jesus taught. And we find it acceptable. And when we hear something at church that bangs up against that ideal, sometimes we get angry. And I guess that's okay. But I guess it's a challenge. I don't know if we can get this taken care of. Today I was wearing my brother's stole. So old, it's about 65 years old. And his cross, which at the time was probably avant-garde, I don't know. And I know he talked to me a lot about being a pastor and a preacher and those kind of challenges, and they are real. But anyway, here we are with different ideas about a lot of different things. And here we are trying to find a way to make our faith work into our lives. It's a challenge, but a good challenge indeed. A good challenge indeed. Well, anyway, Christ is risen. And so today, as we look at another story of Jesus on Easter Sunday, we see him walking on the road to Emmaus, which in fact is the Jericho road. That's the road that was part of the story Jesus put together about the Good Samaritan. And of course, in the Good Samaritan, the priests and Levites, we believe, were walking in the direction of Jerusalem. They could not be bothered with a person who was taken for dead at the side of the road for any number of reasons, but in any event, it was not going to be. And anyway, we see them going on this road, and today it's the same road, but now Jesus and these disciples are going in the opposite direction, a road that has traveled a great deal. And so later on that Easter Sunday, these two guys, they were disciples of Jesus, to be clear, were walking on the Jericho road. Now, these disciples were not the 11 or 12, but they would have likely been part of the 70 or 80 or 90 because they knew the other disciples. They were aware of the ministry of Jesus. They probably were part of the demonstration that took place on Palm Sunday. They were probably waving palm branches and this and that, part of that whole experience. But now they're walking and they're talking about the things that happened. Jesus asks them questions. And I think what struck me the most out of this story, what grabbed me the most, was the fact that they were disappointed that he did not redeem Israel. For all that had been done, he did not redeem Israel. He did not behave in the way they thought a Messiah would behave. And they were disappointed. Now, when they say he didn't redeem Israel, fundamentally what they're saying is he didn't overthrow Rome. They were not free yet of the clutches of Rome. They were still oppressed. And they thought somehow the Messiah was going to take care of that. Jesus preached love. He explained to the disciples the prophets that preceded him, that to a great extent he was preaching very similar messages about peace. What would have distinguished Jesus, I think, the most from these other prophets was the fact that he organized a ministry to be sustained after he left. He gathered disciples, he gathered lots of people, he trained, he taught them, and they became ready to take the next steps that we see happen, certainly in the book of Acts today, with Peter rising to the occasion, getting his voice, his preaching voice. And in fact, they have 3,000 people make a decision to become Christians that day. Huge, an amazing thing. And the ministry continues to move forward. But you see, if we look at Jesus and we pay great attention to this ministry, and we dig deeper and deeper and deeper, we understand that the totality of his ministry had to do with building the peace. Compassion, mercy, justice, forgiveness, and grace. This is the totality of the ministry. Anything that you see or hear about Jesus can be tied back into this reality. They were disappointed. He didn't redeem Israel. And even in the book of Acts, and certainly the musings of Paul, they're waiting for Jesus to come back, to be this victorious king that will take control, that will push back Rome. They're confident it's somehow going to happen, even though there was no indication that that was going to happen in his life or in his preaching. But yet, they held on. It never happened. Not in their life. Faith is a tricky thing. It's a good thing. It's a good fight. And as Christians, now in the nuclear age, we're invited to extrapolate exactly how this peace, how this shalom works today. What are the unique challenges and opportunities that exist for people attempting to be the hands and feet of God, following in the footsteps of Jesus? What does this mean for us today? Uniquely in the nuclear age, we have the capacity as a people to eliminate everything that exists. Everything. We have the capacity, collectively and individually, to use tools of war against ourselves, each other, and the world. We have become, I think, somewhat comfortable with that. But the challenges are great. The challenges are great, my friends. It is easy to lose sight of the peace in the midst of all this. But we are a remnant of that peace, and each one of us have been called to action. It's different for each of us. We each have a mountain to climb. Some of us have a real tall mountain to climb, others not so much. It's easy to lose sight of peace. And the question is, how and why did we get here? What happened? Maybe did anything really change? Maybe not as much as we think. There have been problems forever. Everybody, there's been problems. But I'm going to contend, because I believe that Jesus has it right, always had it right, always will have it right. I'll contend that the dysfunction that we see in our world and in our own lives sometimes is the result of actions that have taken place in a micro way or in a larger way that are contrary to the peace. If I don't give consideration to the fact this is all of God's creation, and here I am engaged in doing some different things, if I don't pay attention to that peace, if I don't recognize I'm part of the co-creation, and I lose sight of what God's plan is, which is very, very simple, it's easy for me to drift. More than ever in this nuclear age, every step we take, every thought, every idea is invited to become an articulation and an embodiment of the peace. Don't ever think you don't have power. You do. And you can become light. Now, the good news in all of this is that Jesus is risen. St. John, I've been here going on 3 years. I haven't been part of the whole story. There's a whole story. There's a whole history of all kinds of good ministry that has taken place. But with my eyes and what I've been able to see, just in this short period of time, I do see the members of St. John and the ministry of St. John attempting to make a difference, to become the hands and feet of God, to become the light, and that's a good thing. Now, more than ever. We have launched our nursing home ministry, and if you talk to people who are now on the visitation team, you'll begin to hear more and more over a period of time the power of the lives, the stories that take place, and the fact that through this ministry there will be a terrific amount of compassion that's stimulated. You'll be hearing more and more of our ability to take another missional step in the area of advocating for those with disabilities and helping build ministries in this area. You'll hear more and more about that. You'll see the startup of God's Garden again, a process that has been slow and steady, but over time you will see the impact of this ministry in ways that maybe nobody can imagine. But right now we're about ready to launch, and we are taking steps to look at the applications of what is going on creatively within this ministry, how it may impact nursing homes, how it may impact homes with people with disabilities, how it will help young children in the summer camp that'll take place. It's a slow, steady thing. This fall, you will celebrate the launch of a new ministry at St. John, a ministry that had its genesis at Antioch, a ministry that tutored lots of children that had unique learning needs. And the founder of that ministry is a member of our church. It's Shirley George. And now, with Antioch closing, that ministry will fully transfer to St. John. And we have 8 or 9 people already who are willing to be tutors and to make a difference, and this ministry can continue to grow. But it's an important step that we can take to help children who need a little extra help. And that's a powerful, powerful step. All of these actions, if we focus on shalom for every single thing, will stimulate more ministry. We'll hear about things, we'll celebrate things, we'll do things, we'll respond to things. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. One more thing. We've got a crop walk coming up in 2 weeks. I mentioned it before. Ashley will be out, and we'll also have envelopes next week. But please, 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 think about contributing to the crop walk. It makes a statement about this ministry to the community. It will help people. It's a ministry that has been a proud part of this congregation for years. I'm sorry Earl Hagen can't be here, but I hope you're on Zoom, Earl, and thank you. Thank you for all you've done. Not only for this church, but for the whole community in terms of the crop walk. We should, each of us, now, I shouldn't say should, but I hope we all give. I hope we all give. It's a proud moment for this ministry and an important program. But in the end, as we think about this Easter season, we recognize and we celebrate that the Holy Meal gives us the strength, the power, and the opportunity to yet again be God's hands and feet, to take those next steps, to not give in to the goofy stuff, to rise above, to proclaim Christ risen. And as we take in this holy meal, we can be risen as well, to be his hands and feet. Amen.